I became a mother at 38 years old and a homemaker at 40, and there are so many things I wish I had known. So if you are watching this and find yourself entering into homemaking, here is what I wish someone would have told me. First and foremost, I wish someone would have told me that as a mother and a homemaker, creating community can be hard. Now, to be fair, when I became a mother, it was peak COVID. The world looked really different and a lot of communities fractured. But this was a real challenge for me entering into motherhood and homemaking because prior to this, I had tons of community involvement in my town through work, through the dance community, and yoga. So it seemed so out of place for me to not have a place. I can't say with certainty that this would have been easier had I had a child a little bit younger in life. It was easier to make friends and build community when I was younger, but I do think part of the issue for me was age. Having a baby at 38 is a whole vibe, and making new friends at 40 is a totally different thing. And now that I'm 42, it's even harder. But the other thing that I think happens is we are led astray by things like social media and content that makes motherhood look like just this group of women getting together all the time. And if you have that, I'm super excited for you. But sometimes I feel like people forget to say how isolating and sometimes how lonely being home can be. Now, if you have a bunch of kids, you're probably laughing at me right now, thinking like, what are you talking about? I never get a minute alone. But I don't mean necessarily being in the company of a lot of people. I mean being in the company of your people. It is so easy to get lost in the daily grind, and it's so easy to get lost in the identity of your family and of your children. And I wish someone would have told me to keep my community close. I got really lost in early motherhood, as I think we all do. And now that I am getting into a new phase of motherhood where I do have a little more time and space, here I am without a place to go. And I think for a lot of people, especially the way we live our lives now, very far apart from our family. For example, the closest family members I have are 2.5 hours away, and we're not embedded in our communities because we're stuck on our phones all the time. I think this is actually really normal. I just wish someone would have told me that, because had I known, had I had some awareness of it, I think it would have been easier to handle when the time came. In case you are wondering what I'm doing in the video, I am batch prepping all the photos for the next few weeks for my blog, which includes a ton of sourdough stuff. So in addition to YouTube, I also run a blog over at moonandmagnolia.com, and here I'm getting the dough ready for some sourdough pumpkins and sourdough bread bowls and sourdough pumpkin cinnamon rolls, so tons of dough. Okay, number 2, things that I wish someone would have told me about homemaking. And this is in particular for those of you who might be transitioning from a professional life out of the home into the home. And that is, your professional experience is valuable in the home. Not too long ago, my mom was telling me that when we were little, I have 2 siblings, so when she had young children, she subscribed to this newsletter for mothers. And in that newsletter, there were always these contentious articles really debating the value of either staying home or working out of the home. And those two groups of women really clashed. And what I wish someone would have told me is that what you did before your life as a homemaker or a mother is valuable in the way that you live your life as a homemaker and a mother. And I do have to pause for 1 second. We are having a very bad thunderstorm. So if you can hear the thunder and the rain, I hope it gives you a nice relaxing vibe, but it is pretty intense out there. I posted a video a number of months ago about my story of moving from working as a full-time university instructor into homemaking. I'll link that in the description box for you. But what no one told me is that those two worlds don't have to collide. In fact, they can complement each other so much. Running a home is a job. And in a lot of ways, it's a lot harder than a job in an office. It may or may not be as physically demanding, and depending on the day, it might not be as intellectually challenging, but no one is there to tell you what to do. Often there is no support. When I was teaching full time, if I was sick, I got someone to sub my class, or if it was really a problem, we would cancel the class and they would do online work. At home, when I'm sick, there is no substitute. There is no canceling this. I have to show up no matter what. If something breaks in my house, there is no IT support. I have to figure it out. But if you bring professional experience to the table, you know a lot about time management, how to delegate tasks, how to be resourceful. And honestly, you don't even really have to have professional experience to know how to do those things. But if you've just figured those out in one setting, you can apply them in just about any setting. And I wish someone would have just really said to me, what you know is really valuable inside your home, even if you don't know how to use it yet. I entered into this role a little late in life, and I wish someone would have explained to me that, yeah, your life does look different before you have children, but it's still the same life, and all the things that you know and did before are valuable. And that any clash between, quote, professional women and, quote, homemakers is really just a clash also within ourselves, and we deserve to live better than that. We should not be fighting with ourselves or others about our identities and our worth in the world. I wish someone would have told me, and that I would have realized sooner, that the things I did before becoming a mother and becoming a homemaker were not a waste of time. Number 3, and this is sort of a segue from the last one, and that is I wish someone would have reinforced the knowledge that homemaking is a foundational skill. I have said time and time again on this YouTube channel that if you have a home, you are making it. And it does not matter if you work 9 to 5 out of the home, if you work from the home, or if you're a stay-at-home mom. If you have a home, you are making it. I already touched on a little bit about how there has been, and I hope there isn't still, but my guess is it's probably still out there, this clash between professional women and homemakers. But I really wish someone earlier in my life would have reminded me that everybody at some level is a homemaker, because these are things that everyone needs to know how to do. You have to eat food. Ideally, you live in a clean house and have clean clothes. And these are all things that we have to do. And taking ownership of those responsibilities and doing them in the way that works best for our lives and our schedule, and really taking it on as part of our life's responsibility, actually makes it much more enjoyable. Now, look, I'm not going to love folding laundry, right? That's not an enjoyable task for me. I'm not saying that these things are always super fun and really tie into your passions, but we can get creative in ways that we do them. These are skills that we can learn and hone and get better at. There has always been, and I have even received some subtle pushback about being a homemaker and whether or not that's the right decision, and the stereotypes that maybe I'm reinforcing through my content. But the reality is, it doesn't matter what you do, you have to do these things at some level. And I have found that when I really just embraced it, suddenly it was kind of fun. I learned to make bread, and I learned to cook things that my family really enjoys. And even though every day isn't beautiful and amazing, I have really begun to enjoy a lot of these tasks because they have become interests and skills that also serve a function of running my home. And just because it's a foundational skill for everyone doesn't mean it has to be your only skill or your only interest. As a matter of fact, you can love being a homemaker and also love all sorts of things that don't have anything to do with your home. And I think a lot of times the naysayers feel like homemakers and I think I even thought this way at one point in my life, feel like homemakers don't do or think about anything outside of the home, and that is not true. So if you are wondering if you should become a homemaker, if you're trying to figure out how to be a homemaker, your home is, yes, a big part of your life, but it's not your entire life. Just a quick side note, these are the sourdough pumpkin cinnamon rolls, and they are so good. I actually just ate one for breakfast, but this will be on the blog soon, and all of the recipes that you've seen me make today will be on my blog over at moonandmagnolia.com. Number 4. I wish somebody would have told me that my life as a homemaker does not have to look like anyone else's life as a homemaker. I think our culture is in a deep crisis of comparison with so much content out there, and that content is always trying to grab your attention to say, look at me and look at my life, because that is how those people get engagement and in turn, how they get paid. But the result of that is constantly feeling like our lives are not enough. And I wish somebody would have told me that homemaking doesn't have to look glamorous. And in fact, it probably isn't that glamorous day to day. And you're probably sitting here watching me make these sourdough pumpkin cinnamon rolls and thinking, well, I mean, you're sitting here talking about how life isn't glamorous and you're making things and I don't have any time to make anything. What are you talking about? But the reality of that is I had to make these twice for my blog on this day because the first time was such a fail. I got super upset. I even cried for a minute because everything was such a hot mess. And that is actually life. We only see these snippets of people's lives as homemakers where it looks like it's nothing but making bouquets and beautiful cinnamon rolls, but we don't really see the day in, the day out where things are dirty and messy and tough and emotional. And I think sometimes this need to compare ourselves to others might even stem from the very first thing I mentioned in this video is a lack of community. We, myself included, are often stuck on our phones and we are looking at other people's lives, but we are not interacting with those people. So we get this visual representation of what we think their lives are, but we're not actually experiencing what their lives truly are. And the truth of all of that is our lives are all very, very different. There is no one size fits all to homemaking. Homemaking to you might be working on your home in the margins of your day because you're in the office during the day. Or maybe it means you're a stay-at-home mom and this is what you do full time, and that is okay. There is some sort of like surrender or contentment that comes with this that I think is very hard to cultivate in our culture. But I wish someone would have told me what the pressures would have been like and that it is okay to not live up to them, and even more so, to not care about them. Of course, our lives are different, and the things I wish I would have known may be different than the things you need to know. But I wish I would have known these things earlier on in my homemaking journey. I regularly share homemaking vlogs like this with some of my thoughts and struggles with homemaking. I will leave links for those in the description box, but always stay tuned for more. And to keep up with all of the Moon and Magnolia happenings, be sure to sign up for the email list. I will send you links to all of my recipes, tutorials, vlogs, and more directly to your inbox. I'll leave a link for that in the description box. Thanks so much for stopping by today, and I'll see you again next time.